Hey guys, and welcome to yet again another Rainbow Six Siege tip video. It's been a minute since we've done one of these, but I'm gonna do this one on how to control recoil, and it's not just gonna be like a lot of the recoil videos I've seen out there where it's just quite obvious, just pull down, pull the opposite way of wherever the recoil pattern is. Instead, I'm gonna give more helpful advice that is not common sense, and we're gonna go over everything from even like hardware that you might want to switch. So even like hardware you might want to switch to eventually, settings and your ADS, how it affects your recoil control and everything along that. We're also going to go over like attachments you should use if you want to control your recoil better. And then of course we are going to go over the recoil patterns at the end of the video, but this isn't going to be focused on how to pull down on your mouse because I know we can do that without me telling you. But I think first things first, we go over settings and our peripherals. So in theory, we're going to want a bigger mouse pad if we are pulling down to keep a consistent pull down and not run into any slips or anything. Because if you have a hard table and don't have a mouse pad covering the whole thing, you're going to hit the table and it's going to change the speed that you're pulling down, which will result in the recoil being screwed up and your whole recoil pattern being messed up. And you're going to probably have to readjust, or it'll just mess you up entirely and probably lose the gunfight. So one way to go about this is of course getting a full-size mouse pad, and then the other way is to get a gaming sleeve or compression sleeve, or just wear a long sleeve shirt. Now I know it seems a little nerdy to wear a compression sleeve, but I promise you almost every single pro wears a compression sleeve. So if you really want to take it to the next level, then you might want to consider it. It's like 10-15 bucks. I'll leave a link to the one I use in the description. I don't always use it, but if I'm really trying hard and I want to get the competitive advantage, I'll either just use the mouse pad because I have a big mouse pad, or I'll just put on the sleeve if I'm feeling like sweaty and sticky. Either way, it's fine. And then for a mouse, you're probably going to want a lighter weight mouse. I have mine linked as well in the kit down below under my gaming setup. So with that out of the way, we're going to go into your ADS and how that's going to affect everything. So my ADS is 100 with, I have a X factor multiplier, but if you don't have that, that's basically the equivalence of 83. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. And mine's at 100. Now that makes it pretty easy to control recoil, as in you don't have to move as much, but it's also easy to kind of mess it up, while a lower ADS will make it somewhat easier to control, but at the same time you can't make flicks and other important things you need in this game. So I always stick with my 1-to-1, but it's not a bad idea to go down into the 50s range if you're really struggling with recoil in general. But if you can get good with it, stick with the 83. Or if you want to check my X factor multiplier and everything, do the multiplier and 100. Just make it a 1-to-1 regardless. All right, so once we're into a game here, I'm going to pick an operator that is obviously a bigger struggle for people to get the hang of. So Buck is the operator of my choice. People cannot control the recoil to save their life. It's because they're using the wrong attachments most of the time. Muzzle brake really helps out vertical recoil. I know it says the one-shot thing, but I promise vertical recoil is its main purpose, the muzzle brake. And putting a holographic on guns that you struggle at controlling recoil with will absolutely help you out. So the first thing with any gun now is you're going to want to, once we get into the game of course, you're going to want to test out your recoil and kind of play the same operators whenever you're doing this, because every gun has a slightly different recoil pattern, and as in the way it pulls up, either right or left usually. So if I don't touch it at all, this one goes right, obviously goes right a little bit, so you're going to want to pull left. And I know that's really simple, so we're not going to focus on that too much, but it's still good to note that, and you're going to want to at least consider that whenever you recoil control. But the more important thing is the stuff we've already done, which is the muzzle brake and the holographic sight. Because the holographic sight in of itself makes it easier and more consistent. The ACOG is so zoomed in that it feels like you are very close to people all the time. And obviously, recoil is not obviously this easy to control all the time. Once we scoot back, it'll get harder and harder to do, but as long as you stay in a general, bullet pellet pattern where it's all within like a head or a body shot range and it's not going like crazy like that, then you should be good as long as this is the head right here. And I show you what I was talking about. I want to bring out the ACOG just to show you. For example, I put on an ACOG and a flash hider. So I want to show you the difference here with the bullet pattern spread. So for example, how we were doing it before, we did it where we would pull down, and it was like that, and then we scooted on back. So as you can see, when I zoom in, it still feels like I'm very close. Now the problem with that is it makes it very hypersensitive, as in your recoil is going to feel easier than it really is, and you're going to end up with a really tough pull, because this literally is with the same amount of force I was using before. And obviously before it was just a little, it was like that kind of bullet spread, but with the ACOG here, that's not a fully loaded mag, but the first bullet and the first little gap of bullets, it really kicks, and I'm really having to pull down quite a lot compared to when I was using the hollow and a muzzle. So what I'm saying here is it's not just how you pull down, right? I can always control it eventually if I get the hang of it, but it's if you are struggling with what you're using now, switch up the attachments. Quit thinking about how bad you're doing or how you need to pull down your mouse a different way or something like that. You know, that is true, but maybe it just doesn't work for you, and instead having a muzzle or hollow work, or maybe a flash hider and an ACOG works well for you. I don't know what works well for you, only you can determine that. But no matter if you're on console or PC, it's gonna be this way regardless. So now that we have the general gist, I would say, of how the operators and how the recoil works, we're going to want to pick the operators that we use most and hopefully have a similar, you know, recoil pattern in that sense. So Sledge and Jackal, for example, you're going to have similar recoil, as in it's very limited vertical recoil and it's very easy to control. Zofia, there's going to be a lot of horizontal recoil, so Zofia and Buck is usually a good maining core. Same thing with IQ and the LMG. Those all could be really good. So once you pick that operator that you want to use, you're going to want to pick them in different matches, and it could be a terrorist hunt, it could be whatever you want to do, and you're going to want to practice in a way that we kind of showed before, but you're going to want to do it over and over again just to get that muscle memory with the guns that you use most often. Now I'm not saying only focus on these three operators, never play anyone else, obviously that's no fun, but if you get the hang of your main operators, get really good at them, it comes way easier to get good at other operators later down the road. So Zofia, for example, and pretend like this is the operator you're trying to get good at. You want Zofia, you want Buck, just say those are the two operators that you want to become familiar with. So the first thing you do whenever you are getting ready to just start off, you want to aim in and shoot without touching your mouse. Just see where it goes. So as you can see, it kind of goes slightly right, just how Buck's gun went. So we're going to go slightly left. So we're just going to keep testing it. You know, it's going to be rough at first, and you know, that's kind of rough. It should be tighter than that. But as you can see, it's pretty tight just by knowing which way to pull down. Now, from different ranges, of course, it'll get easier and easier, and it's just pulling the same exact way, just at a different amount of force. If you are further away, you're going to have to use more force. It's still the same pattern, though, of course. So from way back here, you're going to have to just use a little bit more force, and the bullets spread a little bit more. That's why long distance aiming is usually better not at full fire. But anyways, that's how you should practice it, and hopefully the attachment tip works for you guys. I know a lot of people just blame everything, but maybe you are blaming the wrong things. Maybe blame your peripherals. You could blame your peripherals. That's probably the easiest thing to blame. If you have a mouse pad that gets stuck and stuff like that, consider the sleeve. And instead, just switch up your attachments. Switch it up and try it out and see what works for you. I don't know what works for you, but you surely can figure it out. Hopefully this helped, and I'll see you guys in the next one. One thing I forgot to mention is the new Discord server. I want to plug it just a few more times. It's the first link in the description down below. Later today, I'm going to be playing with people in that Discord server. It's going to be more platinum games, platinum diamond games, but anyone is welcome to join the Discord, and you'll find plenty of people of all different skill levels, from copper to diamond even. And if you're a higher rank, tonight is for you, and we are all going to be playing together. So go on in there and at me with your Uplay, and we'll get playing tonight.